Okay, let's now take it to the company. This company we're talking about, Primarald multi-venture company. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Primarald was born out of the fact, like I said initially, I just didn't want to see myself fixated in just one particular aspect of life. I think we are dynamic in nature as humans, and we do have the tendencies to be able to do a whole lot of things. As someone who's very curious, and Primarald was built out of curiosity. Okay, as someone who's very curious, I felt like, okay, yeah, I do want to own a company. I do like to have that feeling that I'm a businessman or something typically different from the regular business activity, something that solves problems. So Primarald, the very first purpose of Primarald, or the initiative, is to be able to provide solution.
Okay.
And there are always problems to solve. So the more you are able to solve this problem, the more
profits you will get from life.
profit, the more the world becomes a better place. The more, of course, from a business perspective, the more turnovers, revenues we tend to get.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Primarald TV, right here in Bayelsa. My name is Tonye Barakumo Fawei, and I'll be your host for today. But today, we're bringing you a very interesting edition. Of course, if you're an ardent viewer of Primarald TV, you would know that we've got so many programs for you. But today, we'll be talking to somebody that has been behind the scenes, making sure that you get everything: entertainment, information, and also education on Primarald TV. We'll be talking to the CEO of Primarald Multi-Ventures Limited, and is no other than Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mrs. Farley.
So, would like to know, the audience would like to know, everybody would like to know, who is Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri?
It's quite interesting though, because I think so many persons have different perception about me.
Okay.
You know, some persons see me as that quiet, reserved personality that maybe could pick on interest on something, probably venture into it, and yeah. But then some persons also see me as one who is a go-getter and someone who wants to strive to succeed, to keep pushing, to keep doing. And I'm most aligned with that personality. I'm known for so many,
So many things.
so many things.
Okay.
Author, an entrepreneur, as you can see with Primarald, also a tech expert. So yeah, so many things.
Okay. You've reeled out so many things, so many parts of Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri. But I'd like you to tell us, where exactly are you from? Are you a Bayelsan? Are you from outside Bayelsa? Where exactly is Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri from?
Proud Bayelsan, from a Kremor local government area.
That's my local government.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Okay.
Very proud Bayelsan. I didn't grow up in a village though,
Okay.
but I'm very much aligned with the typical ideologies of an Ijoman. If you view my character, you can see that resilience, that persistence, that grit, that strength, that focus. And these are characters you find in an Ijoman. So I'm always proud, wherever I am, I'm always proud to say this is where I'm from.
Okay, I'd also like you to tell us, where did all this start from? What's prompted you to go into entrepreneurship? How did this entrepreneurship spirit come from? Is it something you developed from family, or it's something you just grew into? Do you have a mentor or somebody you look up to in this field?
I would say because I'm born into so many things. I have a keen observation in life, and I believe that I shouldn't just be fixated to one aspect of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have mentors and I've received support throughout my years, and even now I do have support, people I look up to, from my education years with my lecturers, family background. I do have personalities in the family.
Hey.
On a business scale, read books, and see people doing business as well. But personally, I think I'm more self-taught. I'm more.
I want you to tell us more about family life, how you're growing up. Maybe would get one or two inspiration from that aspect of you growing up, the schools you attended, and all that. I'd like to know.
My growing up is quite an interesting journey. I grew up in Port Harcourt,
Okay.
a place called Lagos Streets, to be precise. I live with family, the Lokpobiri family is an extended,
Yeah.
so I live with most of my male uncles who did a very good job while I was growing up, to be honest. And
It's very
yes,
from it.
I attended a good school, Royal Faith Nursery and Primary School. Yeah, so that was with childhood. So most of the things I learned during childhood was as a result of the kind of environment I grew up with and how people did what they did. And like I said, with the job character is that persistent and that drive to always keep pushing. So I think that shaped my character. But yeah, no,
Of life.
yeah. So I just believed, well, as a River State brought up, you want to do something, go do what you want to do. So I've always had very strong mental fortitude, even from childhood. But then people tend to, from my outward appearance, people tend to see like, seeing this guy is very quiet and very reserved.
Because you look it.
Yeah, I look so much like it, but
Wow.
dare me. So dare to say you accept this goal and you can't achieve it. I bet you, I'll bet it down.
The name Lokpobiri is a household name right here in Bayelsa State. Are you in any way affiliated to the former Minister for Petroleum?
I am, yeah.
Him?
He's my late dad's, let's say, memory to my late dad, older brother. So I'm very much affiliated. So very, very much affiliated to the family. Not always in close contact though. I'd say barely in contact, but it's he's a personality that it's not someone who has that sort of credence and someone who has that sort of renowned profile. You love to kind of associate yourself, say, yeah, I'm proud to be part of this family.
Okay, let's now take it to the company. This company we're talking about, Primarald multi couples. I guess that's what it is. Multi-venture company. Tell us about it. How did it come about? What was the inspiration behind Primarald? And why the name Primarald?
Yeah, so Primarald was born out of the fact, like I said initially, I just didn't want to see myself fixated in just one particular aspect of life. I think we are dynamic in nature as humans, and we do have the tendencies to be able to do a whole lot of things. As someone who's very curious, and Primarald was built out of curiosity. Okay, as someone who's very curious, I felt like, okay, yeah, I do want to own a company. I do like to have that feeling that I'm a businessman, but something typically different from the regular business activity, something that solves problem. Because so Primarald, the very first purpose of Primarald or the initiative is to be able to provide solution. And there are always problems to solve. So the more you're able to solve these problems, the more
Profits you will get from life.
profit, the more the world becomes a better place. The more, of course, from a business perspective, the more turnovers, revenues we tend to get. But the more you kind of shape the social dynamics of life to see that, okay. So the word primarald, like you asked, primary, primary is associated with first, the very first thing. And the route is more like a perception of sound, continuous onward progress. That's my thoughts. Well, I just hammer out, that feeling. So if you're looking to um, get in touch with a business operation, let's say in multimedia, let's say in education, in fashion, think about Primarald, the very first place you should be is Primarald. And I think that's also based on the fact that there is competition in the business world. Yes. And then we would always like to be at the top of the food chain, when it comes to competition. So yeah, we are the very first persons you should come to. And yeah, so I felt because I'm also multi-skilled, I have knowledge on different aspects of life. So why not kind of tally all of these different aspects, marry them, and see how we all make sense. So then you have the logistics arm of Primarald, you have the Primarald learning, you have the Primarald logistics for the logistics arm, you have the Primarald TV, you have the Primarald fashion events, so that's for the event app. We have our digital platforms, okay, and that's uniquely designed in a way that for each venture, the prefix of the name is Primarald, is Primarald. And then the particular operating venture now comes in, like Primarald TV, our TV broadcasting, in different aspects of life. Right, yeah. So Primarald TV, so the very first TV platform you should think of when you want to kind of have maybe your casting service, marketing service, entertainment, and also if you want fashion or if you want beauty service, Primarald Magic Gateway, for instance. You want photographic services, you have Primarald, for Primarald Studios. So that's it. And yeah, that's where we got to. Outside, I wanted to know, outside just having Primarald in different aspects, how do the people outside coming? Yeah, there's a Primarald TV, there's Primarald Beauty, Magic Beauty, there's a Primarald Learning. How do you get people to be part of this idea? Apart from just selling it to people, can people collaborate with you to make something out of your lives than just you selling something to people? Yeah, of course. And how do they go about it? Primarald is open. It's like I said, it's dynamic in nature. So they're always open to collaboration. There are different aspects of Primarald that we are B2B and also a B2C company. That's best of it. And so I'd like you to expatiate on what you mean by B2B and B2C. Yeah, so B2B is business to business. Okay. Every business wants a marketing touch. You want that exposure for your business. Every business would want integrated solutions like a booking service platform where people can quickly get in touch with your business. And Primarald does that. Yeah, so then every business would most likely want to, let's say, have a logistics service that could, let's say, for retail brands, you would like to be associated with a logistics service provider that can kind of transit your goods from one place from the retailer's point to the consumer, and Primarald offers that. And then for the B2C is business to customer. So the direct consumer, we facilities, we have the digital platforms that you could, for instance, go to the website, you have a feed of our blog post to entertain yourself. You can go to the shop. You want to go and shop for items will get delivered to you directly. You want a personal branding, you can have a consultation with the business price. So yeah, I would say it serves people with different dynamic to ensure that everybody had something to take out of Primarald. Okay, now going forward, what other ventures do you have in mind to infuse into what's already on ground for people to be parts of this you're selling to them? I would say, for instance, we're expanding the education initiative in Primarald as Primarald Learning. Okay. And it's unique in a way that it doesn't take away the traditional institutional learning process now. It complements, but in skilled focus. It is more aligned with digital literacy. Take, for instance, in Niger Delta, there is a huge lack of digital literacy. You can tell when you go to different streets, different corners, different localities and villages, even in schools. So Primarald is here to bridge that gap. And then also there is a platform that we are launching as well at the Campus Flash magazine to highlight the successes and achievements of students in institutional organizations, to show them that you can stay in school is encouraged and you can still have that highlight that you are, desperately in need of. So Primarald is also open to working the institutions as well as the people, seeking service in those institutions as well. So we tick all of the different boxes. So with Primarald, the question is, what can I get? And then we answer that question like, this is what we can provide for you.
So, okay, you talked about how the businesses on the Primarald multi ventures is going to be open to outsiders. No, let's leave out the business aspect of your life. Let's come back home to Ebiks, Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri.
Here.
Tell us more about yourself. Who exactly is Justice Ebiks Lokpobiri? And how did you transit from being a Port Harcourt boy to coming to Bayelsa State and owning a business such as Primarald?
I would say I've been ignited by dream, passion, vision, goal. My dad, for instance, I can't take my dad out of the picture. He always had high expectations of me right from childhood. There are certain things I would do, and he's fond of saying, how can you do that? Or there are certain milestones I'll get to, and he was like, okay,
That's my son.
not just that, my son. Yeah, obviously he appreciates that I've made certain progress, but he quickly establishes the fact that there is another milestone.
Okay.
So it kind of pushed me to see that there is more to life. You have to keep growing, you have to keep improving, you have to keep becoming better and better and better. So from Port Harcourt, obviously, after rounding up my primary school and all of that, and then moving over to Yenagua briefly, I was quickly moved over to Edo State in Benin. Okay, so that's where I did my secondary school and all of that. It's an interesting journey, mostly because I learned a lot. I'm quite philosophical with life, kind of see things from different lenses and different perspectives, and not just from locality, then also on an international view or scale. So I felt that, okay, there is a certain trajectory or dimension that I can get to that makes a real difference in the terrain or the area that I find myself. There is a negative or bad notion. We say, okay, someone from the Niger Delta axis has a certain profile.
Yeah.
We are mostly associated with the aggression, mostly associated with militancy. Militancy was born out of the struggle of,
Resource control
and all of that, deprivation and all of. But typically, a Niger Delta is beyond all of that.
Yeah.
And a German is beyond all of that. And a German is progressive in nature. Okay. And I want the whole world to see that progressiveness from myself. I see myself as an ambassador of the, I would say if it's the just struggle, as an ambassador of the struggle. To see that there are young people, not just like me, who probably, if you have the opportunity, okay, would flourish. Why? We have the mental fortitude and the capacity to invest in a process and ensure that follow through, ensure that it is progressive. If you look at the family dynamics or the setting, aside from my father who kind of pushed me a lot and taught me to a quickly independence of myself and all of that, he used to tell me stories about his dad as well, how his dad, my late grandfather, Chief October Lokpobiri, would say he's the man with the highest mental fortitude he has ever met with. He has his eyes fixated on a goal, and regardless of anybody aligning with this vision or goal, he keeps moving with it. So there are a lot of complexities and a lot of challenges and circumstances that would want to make you behave from that part, but he won't. You understand?
Yeah.
So I am mostly aligned with that sort of character, right from childhood to I grew up.
Adulthood.
So what kind of prevented people from noticing it as quickly as maybe now was the fact that my outward appearance wasn't that, kept.
You were not the how do they put it now? You were not the outside person. You were more of
Outside person. So most of what I might be doing more would mostly be on inward basis, building gradually, building quietly. But then when it comes out, people were like, when and how did this person do this? And what was the thought process? You know? But for me, when the occasion arises, I am always in for it. So changing the narrative of is typically a quiet person, but if I find myself in a particular setting and mostly find myself in leadership positions, you can see that it's a different case. I ensure that things are put in the right path. So that's
okay. You already told us about your primary education, how you moved to Benin City, Edo State, to continue your education secondary. Can you tell us about, especially sometimes when people hear about bioscience, like you already said, you have this notion that bioscience are okay militants, they are aggressive people and all that. But here you are with this idea that you're pulling through. I want you to tell us about your educational background in depth after primary school, after secondary school. What next? What has it been for you?
education, yeah, and it's a very lovely journey. Currently I'm still on my master's business psychology.
Okay.
Yeah, University of East London. But from my primary school, to be honest, I was a very brilliant, intelligent student right from primary school. But I wasn't really too interested in reading because my dad would always say, "Go and read your books. Go and read your books." 'Cause
Every parent.
I played more than I read. So he would incentivize my kind of primary credentials. You say like, okay, if you take first,
I'll get you house
I'll get you this. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'll come back with the first result.
because you're expecting
Because like better sorting. So for me, I understood how the educational dynamics work. I understood follow through the process and you get the results.
Yeah.
But I was more than just at some point I got bored of that process, follow through the process and you get the results. Growing up, finishing primary school, finishing secondary school. So I wasn't too invested in I want to be in the top of the class to more like I want to ask questions. Questions that, probably were not recognized in textbooks and all of that. So I was very inquisitive,
Okay.
very curious. You get so I wouldn't really mind my grades, though I still did more than average most of the time because I still wouldn't want to see myself falling on the markings or the skills. But I saw myself as more as someone who really wanted to ask more questions, wanted to challenge, wanted to kind of debate an entire process. And that kind of interested my lecturers as well because I had my second bachelor's from University of Abikatora, Agric Economics Extension Service. My first bachelor's, Brown Young University, that was in professional studies, major in human resource management. But throughout all of those tertiary experiences, I'd like to debate the process because that helps to shape my perspective on, societal dynamics, how things work. And I think that also helped with me, setting up a business venture. So it wasn't through the orthodox process. Things are not fixated as it is there. That's why in biology they call it evolution. Things evolve.
Yeah.
So what's the process that triggers this evolution and all of that? So I was always thinking ahead of, okay, things might change. So what can we do different to make more improvement and all of that? Not completely discarding the fact because you still have to stick to the fact. But there were some tricks here and there that would help you to understand that there are more progressions that could be made.
Yeah.
You get, so I wasn't fixated to the textbook format of you write this from A to Z and then you get the map and you leave. I'll call back the lecturers and like,
Why is this like?
why is this? Well, this is the way I feel. I understand that you've taught me.
Okay.
This is the way I feel.
You wanted to be an Aristotle of yourself.
Yeah, so very, very, very philosophical with life. Like things are not just fixated the way it is.
Okay.
So who says you can't do more than becoming this, or who says you can't do more than becoming that. Just do more as much as you can, because it's the life for we to explore. Right from biblical references, we are taught to kind of explore, multiply, keep making progress. So this has been our orientation.
This brings me back to a particular question that I've been on my mind to ask. Apart from you being a businessman, apart from you going into different ventures and wanting to see them progress, what other aspect of you would you like us to know?
I work with British Telecoms under the AD flagship consumer brand as a tech service guide. Yeah. My day-to-day work is very interesting. Speaking with at the front desk, speaking with consumers, resolving queries. It's very interesting. I speak to people a lot. And then at some point, I've decided to transition into engineering. So I went for the engineering practice to understand how telecom systems work. Like I said, I'm very curious. So since I was already involved in the front
aspect.
the frontline aspect of resolving queries from a digital point, why not understand how the cablings and the wires and and all of those things work? So understand the fiber splicing process. So I'm also very technical, very, very technical as well. And I wasn't good with mathematics, so strangely. So I thought maybe you have to be very good with mathematics to be technical. Or I kind of immersed myself in the process, and I realized that all of the technicalities are not so difficult to comprehend. You just have to learn.
Does it not say that our curriculum here makes us to understand that for you to be in a certain field, you must read this for you to understand this particular thing very well. Does it now say that the practical aspect of these things are easier than the theoretical parts that will be taught in our space here?
Yes, hands on deck is always better. Hands on deck is always better. So what the theories help you to do is to have a contextual view of things, to be more articulate when you present your results and your facts.
Okay.
But I can tell you there are people who are not so articulate, but on the technical dynamics of things, they're hands on deck. They do way more than those who can speak in the technical language. Like, this is the splicing process, this is that. Okay, this is the splicing process for fiber. Right.
How do we
splice fiber? People might not know. So a good mix of both is important. You can't take away the articulate process. You should be presentable. You should know how to present facts and result. So you can't close the traditional education process. You can only modify it. So people tend to say, oh, school has come, why go, why waste all of the time? No, it's not a waste of time. I can assure you. All that is required for our educational dynamics, let's say in Nigeria, is a modification of the process. Embed it with more practical procedures that helps people to understand why I am here, whilst also, brushing people up to be equipped with the articulate knowledge on how to present their facts and results. I think that would make all of the differences that we require. That would make all of the differences. But I can tell you for a fact, in my university practice, especially at the University of Africa, I had fantastic lecturers. For instance, my HOD is someone who was more practical in process. So I think it helped me a lot as well. So when we get to class, it throws up questions, it brings illustrations, real life scenarios. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that. As an economics, understand the difference between microeconomic scales, how it affects day-to-day living, how national or domestic policies, affects international recognition, or how international policies affect donuts. So all of those things put together, it was very interesting. So more like that kind of thing. But that was agric economics and extension service, and still it's a core theoretical practice or learning process. But he was able to make it very practical in the sense that we were constantly challenged, even to go out to view things. How does the market woman, do her things that helps her to thrive? And how does her decision affect other society?
Yes.
How does the union of
Market
women affects the economy and all of those things together? So it was very interesting. I think those are the kind of dynamics we need, the culture, the educational culture that we need, integrating both the articulate process and also the practical process that makes all of the difference.
Well, that's to say that you're a man of many parts, and not just being a man of many parts, you also follow through with whatever idea that springs up in your head. But before we came into the studio, a little bird whispered that there's supposed to be an event coming up, Primarald event coming up. Can you enlighten us more about?
Yeah, it's always a Primarald experience. So a Primarald experience, it's wonderful. It's meant to present to the world what Primarald is all about. Like I said to you, there is more that we offer. There is, an opportunity for everyone to participate in what Primarald does. It's a B2B company, it's a B2C company. It's all about you thinking for yourself, what do I want? And then Primarald would answer the question needed. So it's interesting. We are going to have entertainment. We're going to have, practical knowledge on how businesses work, because we are also in partnership with several other businesses as well. So it's a platform where you can collaborate, network, have knowledge, and enjoy. Yeah.
So what are the kind of people that you're expecting at that event, and what do you think, what kind of impact do you think that event is going to have in Bayelsa State, in society in general?
So the invitation and the call is for young professionals and entrepreneurs to come on board. Now let's think about improving the economy of the state. And when you think about improving the economy of a state or a country, people always feel that it's typically the responsibility of government. Well, in an honest scale, we are also the government, of course, as individuals. So government is a body of principles, laws, order that govern the people. But then we are of the people. So we make the government as well. And so everybody has a responsibility. Of course, those who are in the administrative setup have the core responsibility to provide the enabling environment. Or in a situation where the enabling environment has not been provided fully, that doesn't stop you from taking action, doing something that is productive. So it's a call for everybody to come and say that, look, we have to be productive. We have to do something beneficial to the states and also impact the country at large as well. So that's the essence. So invitation for young professionals, invitations for entrepreneurs, invitations for aspiring individuals, groups, entities that wants to make progress. That's it. That's the whole initiative.
Okay. As a CEO of Primarald Ventures right here in Bayelsa State, have you been able to train people? Have you been able to mentor people to become like you? Tell us about the mentorship program and how people can get into it.
Yeah, so through the Primarald, in two ways, through the Primarald Learning Initiative, we have had the Primarald Internship.
Okay.
We have had the Primarald Soft Skill Program.
Okay.
So the Primarald Internship allows individual to get involved with our day-to-day business practice. On that skill, you are also taught the digital skills, that is provided through our learning initiative. But because of the facility that we have, because of the different ventures and skills, you are able to kind of immerse yourself in different practice and then still get that valuable, experience and certification to show that you have the skills. And then with the Primarald digital soft skill training, that's more to do with soft skill, how to have a professional ethics, how to, the focus is on digital literacy as well, I must say. Successfully, we have trained over 50 youths. When we kicked off, we've trained over 50 youths. We did Primarald learning program, and with the Primarald internship, we had the first application process. The first training process was over 30 persons. And we also issued grants. So we challenged them to, when you were done with the course, we did an assessment and we picked out the top 3 persons in the highest assessment score to write their business plan. And the business plan that was most appealing, we assisted with funding grants. Yeah. So it was an empowerment. And on the day of the event, you would also see that you would also receive those testimonial. So for me, it was an exciting initiative, to empower young fellows like myself, not just Bielsa, not just a just, but it was open participation for all.
Yeah.
We get, because youth in first, we are a nation as a country, that's Nigerian, so it's not limited to Bielsans or Jaws or so we had people from different areas. We had the Igbos, we had people from the east, the west participate, and people graduated and succeeded and they had certification.
Now this brings me to the next question. Primarald is a company, and we're here in Bielsa State. What's the work strength? What's the how many people has this company empowered in Bielsa State? And how has it been working with Bielsans right here in Bielsa State?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So first, Primarald is set up to, if you are an entrepreneur or a business person, you are directly empowered by Primarald already, because we provide the kind of services that would allow your business to thrive, to amplify the value of your business. And then practically, for those who participated in training programs with us, we have had some as employees, we have had some as contract staff. That is direct empowerment as well. But on a general scale, Primarald empowers you. It all depends on what you
can bring to the table.
What you can bring to the table, and it empowers you. So we are always open to, have that understanding. It's general members of the public to see what we can provide for you, what value we can provide. And we consistently try to improve on our service provision to ensure that it is beneficial to all.
All right. You heard it from the CEO, Primarald Ventures, right here in Bielsa. He already told you what Primarald is all about, the initiative, how it came to existence and all that. But what's the last thing? What's your parting shot for those who are listening? What's your word of encouragement for the younger people who want to be sitting in the studio like you today? Because before now, we hear Bielsa and Tal, we've been stereotyped for so long. And then seeing your kind of person with all the ideas, not just having the ideas. It's one thing to have an idea, and it's another thing to put work into it and make sure that it becomes something that people can see today. So what's your advice for the younger generation watching this interview, Albert?
I would say if you are a Bielsan or you are an Ijo, keep being who you are, because in character, there is no one more spirited than the other Ijo
person
you get. So keep being proud of who you are, keep being yourself, keep doing what you should do. You have dreams, you have goals, you have aspirations. You can get it done. It's possible. It's all about seizing the moment when it arises. Opportunities will come, opportunities will come for every individual. So long as there's life, there is a chance. So seize that opportunity when it finally comes, and something would come out. It might not be as much as you expect, but it takes one step to get to the next step. That's it.
Right. You've heard it from, like I always say, the horse's mouth, about what Primarald is all about. And I'm sure out there, if you have a service you need to sell to the public and to the populace, you need to walk in here at Akum's Plaza, where Primarald has its working offices. Primarald's working offices are at Mansha, right here in Bielsa State at Akum's Plaza. So if you have any questions, if you want to know more about what this company is about and how you can leverage on it for you to get something out of yourself and your skill, then that's the place for you to go to. My name is Tonye Barakumo Fawei, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.